There we are. I think we're recording. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Achieving Unity Success Formula. This is our weekly podcast. But first, let's look at the screen and see our Achieving Unity ending anger, hate, and prejudice, because we know how much that is going around the United States today, and we can stop it. Anger has no value, hate has no value, and prejudice has no value. So if you would like, please go out to the sign up newsletter, get a copy of it. It is our Achieving Unity guide. It helps us in growing forward, make this world a better place, one step at a time. And this is the company. This is my company, Reality Focused Dynamics, creating solutions one reality at a time. And we can transform our lives. It is all about making the choices for what's better. I've already mentioned hate has no value. Anger has no value. Prejudice has no value. But so many of the other things that we do can have value. And our guest today is going to talk to us about when we're going through troubles, we're going through situations, there are better ways to handle it. And that's what we need to focus on. And that's where we're going to go today. In our Achieving Unity Success Formula Weekly podcast, we are here every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Please put it on your calendar. Go out to the website slash podcast, and I'll have the URL up in a sec. I'll have the QR code up in a second. So you put on there, put it on your calendar. We'd like to see you here every week. We want your suggestions. Who else would you like to listen to? We've got a wonderful guest today. I'll show you a few minutes about our other guests coming up. But again, we need to hear from you. This podcast is about achieving unity. It's not just one, it's all of us. No one person has done anything awesome. They have a team. It takes more than one. So let's work together on that. Reality Focused Dynamics delivers success focused solution. You can see that here in the logo. Reality Focused Dynamics, success focused solutions. One of the things I want to talk about today is what started me into speaking. And as a matter of fact, it was my career. Program management, project management. It's about using agile and lean outside of software. Now, some of you may say, software, that's that computer stuff, right? Yes, it is. But that's where I started in computers quite a few years ago. Then we come across these. We had the PMI, Project Management Institute, and it brought about the project management professionals. Well, over the years, we saw that that was very productive in some areas, but in a lot of areas it wasn't. And that's when Agile and the Agile Manifesto was created. Agile is the ability to create and respond to changes and improvements. It enables success in uncertain and possibly struggling environments by emphasizing adaptability through better collaboration and communication. When we break our problems down, they're easier to create solution. And then lean is a methodology that's focused on maximizing value by minimizing waste and optimizing our processes through continuous improvement, effectiveness, and then efficiency. The philosophy can be used in every discipline, in every vertical, including our homes. Let me give you a quick example. Connect with me and I'll show you how to break all issues, all products, all services, all down from the most complex business projects. Yes, including rocket science. I have worked for NASA, I have worked for Boeing, Lockheed Martin. We can transfer all of that down to basic steps, even sometimes as trouble as solving the problems of training our teenagers. Yes, even our teenagers. Think of a busy morning at a family breakfast, and say you do have teenagers, and maybe even some that are younger that are active. Everyone anymore always has somewhere to go. From there, maybe going to their work, and maybe going to school, to many other events, locations, to sports, to the events at the school. Why don't we have a family stand-up meeting each evening during which everyone shares their task for the next day? They'll put their task on those sticky notes, put them on the refrigerator. They'll have the chores and responsibilities that they become accountable for. And each person can then move that sticky note from the to-do column on the refrigerator to the done column. As everything gets done, everyone's happy. You could even create a breakfast station, have pre-portioned ingredients, maybe a weekly meal plan, minimizing that decision fatigue and especially in the mornings, then reducing the time searching for items can help everyone participate in a smoother and more efficient process. Again, this goes personally and professionally. Another work that I do is called what we're going to talk about somewhat today is achieving unity. And we achieve unity by harnessing the power through encouragement, inspiration, and inclusion. So much that we can do by encouraging others and inspiring others, not looking for wrong. How many times do you go into a room or you're in a room and somebody comes in the room and they have their own HMO? Yes, HMO. Hearing my opinion. HMO, because they want you to hear it. And usually that opinion is not on the positive side. Sometimes it is, and the positive side's growing, but too many times we have the negative. So encouragement can be the powerful force that fuels the core of empowerment. Encourage others to help accomplish the task. If they're negative, encourage them some way with a compliment. They have an issue, find something good about it and put them on the good side. Because as we inspire each other to achieve every goal, unity makes us a successful team. The more unified we are, the more successful we will be. And in so doing, we include others, we include everyone, and celebrate every victory. Be happy about a completion. Don't worry about the credit for yourself. You did great, but make sure and credit others, both personally and professionally, because together, all of us, we can overcome every challenge through unity, through achieving unity, us all working together. And some people, we're going to go over this today, and our guest today is going to go over this just so well because she has many years of experience. But are you facing relationship challenges or parenting difficulties? Are you or someone you know struggling with relationship issues, parenting time issues as a divorced or divorcing parent? Transform that frustration into understanding with what the frustration. Where's the value in our actions? And too many times we find out that a frustration has caused the issue. The issue is only a symptom, but a frustration that we have within ourselves is causing that problem. It's igniting that fire. We must realize that anger, ANGER, has no value. Anger is just actions not gaining effective results. Anger has no value. Life happens from personal relationships to parenting time to prenuptial agreements. Anymore, the nuptial's not required because a lot of people aren't getting married because of some of those issues. Marty will talk about that with us in a few minutes also. We can learn to embrace and enjoy every moment and every challenge together. Here's the QR codes I was talking about earlier. My website home is on the left. The website contact page. Love to hear from you. Let's talk. Let's share. What can we do to build personally and professionally? Again, to make our world, for starters, our community, our family, our careers, let's make it a better place, one step at a time. Here are upcoming podcasts. Next week is we being in business and doing it right. Some of you small business owners, are you working with other businesses? Well, Alyssa Picard will be here next week, February 19th, to talk about those same points. On February 26th, we have Annette Evans Wilson. She'll be here talking about know yourself. Enjoy an authentic life. Because how many times do we think about what other people are going to think instead of thinking about what's from our heart, our mind, our soul? Let's come listen to Annette talk about that. The following week, leading teams and driving change. Frank De Dominicis is going to come talk to us on March 5th, and he talks about that. He has a lot of great knowledge, a lot of great business knowledge, and I've known him from Toastmasters for decades. Great person, great one to talk about. The next week, March 12th, invisible disabilities to increase your profitability. Raja Vedaya is going to come talk to us about sometimes I won't go into the details this time because I want it to be for him or Raja to bring it forward. Sometimes we have disabilities that people don't quite see or don't quite understand that we can actually use to take us to that next level. Then on March 19th, Ignite Fitness. Janet McConnell will be here to talk about igniting fitness and what we can do to benefit ourselves in the process of being fit. Please join us. Again, put us on your calendar. Love to see you here every week. Now, today, we are so honored. I'm honored. Now, Marty and I have talked for weeks and maybe months, but we've known each other, and it's all about problem solving. And what we want to do is stay strong with navigating change with confidence and support, achieving unity. There is support out there, and Mardi Winder Adams is the go to divorce coach for high achieving individuals. She is dedicated to supporting people in taking control of their separation and their divorce to reduce the emotional and financial cost of the process. Think about it. It's very emotional going through any kind of relationship struggles. And then if you have attorneys involved, lawyers involved, it gets very financially devastating. Marty brings over 20 years of experience helping women and men navigate the challenges of high conflict, complex, and high asset divorces. Work with each other. That's what it's talking about. Here's more achieving unity. She brings this out even in divorce situations, helping us learn and grow. Marty is an ICF and BCC executive and a leadership coach. She's a certified divorce transition and high conflict divorce coach and credentialed distinguished mediator in Texas. She has tremendous background. Look in the lower right, you can see her website at divorcecoachforwomen.com. Marty's links. Look at this. This person is easy to contact. Reach out to her. There's a website, her podcast of her own, her LinkedIn, her Instagram, Facebook, Facebook Personal, how you can contact her, see her videos and things on YouTube. Get in contact with her. Also, her books. She has two books out there. First one, From I Do to I'm Done, A Woman's Guide to Preparing for Divorce. Preparation is key. Don't go in there blindfolded. That's what she's bringing out in this book. Then the other side of divorce, breakups that lead to breakthroughs. Breakups happen, but we can't let them hold us back. But we'll let Marty talk to us more about that. Let me switch the screen over. Give me just a second. Stop the share. Let me bring Marty over into this screen. Bring it over here. And then Marty, let me bring you up a little bit, just a second.
Okay.
Takes just a second. I need to work with Renee to get this done. She could probably do this so much better than me. But for right now, we're gonna put this up here and add the pin first screen. Here we are. Marty Winder Adams. Thank you for being here. How are you today?
I am great. And Mark, thank you so much for having me on your podcast and for that wonderful introduction. And I'm so excited. I know a couple of people on your upcoming podcast list, so I'm definitely going to be tuning in the next few weeks. So,
Oh, I'm gonna love that, Marty.
yeah.
It is some great people, and it's the communication. And I know I get chills when you talk about all the things that you do and the things that you talk about and how you help people. And so many of our friends are doing the same thing. And It it's so beautiful. And then we come about people that have titles, and I think you call it divorce coach. Help me out. What is
Yes.
a divorce coach?
It's a relatively new profession. And basically, I think it was 2017. I could be wrong on that one, but the American Bar Association officially recognized divorce coaching as an alternative dispute resolution form. And so the role of a divorce coach really is, I call myself a divorce concierge. So I support my clients to navigate the divorce process in a more of a personal, completely bespoke process where people come to me with problems during their divorce, and we sit down, we brainstorm, we plan, we strategize, and ultimately the client makes the decision with what they want to do moving forward. And a lot of times that is because, they go and talk to their attorney, and the attorney says, get all your financials together. Well, what does that even mean? What are the financials? Where do you find them? What do you do? So, so I'm going to be the person that walks with you step by step through the process, to help you get ready for meetings, negotiations, mediations, and just to help people with the personal side of divorce and that emotional side. And how do I answer things when the kids say this? All of those kind of things fall under the purview of a divorce coach.
That is great. And I think you mentioned a few of these, but can you tell me a little bit more about why and when you should work with a divorce coach?
Thank you. That's a really good question. And so I'm going to probably say something that most divorce coaches don't, but most people that have a very good support network, that have a spouse that's going to play fair and play without manipulating the situation, or without, with that, there's no mental health problems, there's no alcohol or addiction problems, there's no um, eh, concerns about financial shenanigans during the divorce. Most people don't need a divorce coach. I mean, they're nice to have, and if you want one, there's lots of them out there to work with. But it's really the people that know that they're going to go through a really difficult or challenging divorce, or they know that they're, like I say, that their spouse is not playing fair during the divorce, or they're concerned about keeping their legal costs down, because that's another way that a divorce coach can really help. So those are the kind of people, and really any time in the divorce. But it's like most things, the earlier you start getting the support and the knowledge you need, the more that it pays for itself over the long run of a divorce.
Marty, being through one just almost a disastrous divorce, but working with others in divorce, I truly appreciate what you say because there's so many times. I'm just going to try to think of a simple example, but let's say you go into one of these super grocery stores and you want some sort of bean, and you go to that store and it's actually hard to find those beans. I mean, this sounds simple, but it is actually true.
Right,
Where do they keep it? Okay, where do they keep? I want Spanish beans. I want refried beans. Where are they? Well, probably the refried beans are the section on Mexican food, but sometimes, well, I get there and I can't find them.
right.
When we get into situations like a divorce, and I'm going to bet I'm just going to do the wrong thing and assume, but I'm going to bet somewhere on the line you've read some divorce law
Yes.
and revised statutes, and it's not in plain English. It is in that what's I call it legal tease. Some people call it legal ease, and it's difficult to read and understand. And there's a lot of court cases going to Supreme Courts. Now, of
Yeah,
course, probably all of us, if we watch any kind of news, we see all the ones going up to the U.S. Supreme Court and how many
right,
that are going to the Supreme Court and how much they're backlogged.
right.
But if we take a time to look at it, there's a lot of them going to that in our district courts, our county courts, our state courts as well. So what I'm leading to here is that I'm thinking that almost every divorce, and I know you say mostly it's for the more struggling ones, but almost every divorce, because even when a couple is working together in their separation, in their divorce, it still goes in front of a judge. And that judge can be very opinionated.
Right.
Yes, there's law, but the law is based on what the judge reads.
Right.
So I'm seeing, and I'm leading again to your feedback here, that I anybody that's going through a divorce before they get in there, they're going to be led by an attorney or a lawyer. And when we think about it, what is the judge? Isn't the judge just another lawyer or attorney that has 5 or more years of adversarial experience?
Right.
So, well,
Yes.
well, okay, but adversarial, what is adversarial? Well, adversarial, right, wrong,
Right.
good, bad, likes you, doesn't like you, likes
Right.
what you're wearing, doesn't like what you're wearing, likes your attitude, doesn't like your attitude. And
Right.
we need to make sure that the people going through these struggles understand there's certain questions they need to ask. And legal ease is not the place to go, right? Can't they
Yes.
come to you and go ahead?
Yeah, well, thanks, Martin. I'm sorry I cut you off there. I apologize
Oh,
for that. But
please.
I would have to say, if you are looking at going through a divorce, your attorney is going to be the highest paid professional on in anybody's divorce. And I really believe that attorneys are essential in divorce, especially like I say, if you're dealing with high asset, high conflict, or highly complex divorces. Now, if even if you're going through a mediation, which I support a lot of clients because my background is as a mediator. I've been doing that since 1990. I've done literally thousands of divorce mediations.
Wow.
But acting as a coach, I am not acting as a mediator, but I can help you prepare for mediation. And so many people, choose to go to the mediation route, which is a lot cheaper and you can get it done a lot faster. And I completely support that because that allows the couple to create their own settlement agreement. Now, just because you go through mediation, I want to clarify this. You are not divorced in mediation. All you do is create the settlement. The only person that can grant a divorce is a judge. So they will then grant the divorce. But typically, when the couple has come to a mediated settlement, the judge is not going to do anything with a mediated settlement unless it violates some statute or something, which a good mediator would never write a settlement that does that anyhow. But that's another topic. But I do believe what you're saying, that the lawyer is, first of all, lawyers only represent one person. So they are on your side, and that's what you're paying them to do, is get you the very best deal possible. And when you have two people with two lawyers trying to get them the best deal, that might lead to an increase in the level of conflict or adversity during the divorce rather than a decrease. Now, there are great lawyers, there's collaborative law, there's a whole bunch of options out there now. But the more you can make your own decisions, I think, the both of you, when you walk out of that with the agreement, there's less likely to be a breach of that agreement, and specifically around the co-parenting plan, things like that. So you are right. A judge will, you never know what way the wind blows with a judge, honestly. And I've seen judges do things that I'm thinking, oh, I know that judge. I mean, I've sat and talked to them. I know what they're going to do in this case. And it doesn't come out that way. I mean, you just don't know what might be something that kind of gets in the judge's head, like, oh my gosh, I don't know why they said that one thing. And that's not against judges. That's just, as human beings, we all make judgments, right? And judges do a very good job being fair and trying to uphold the law, but we're all human beings underneath everything. So
That is so true. And you've said so much right there, Marty, because we are human beings and we let our feelings sometimes drive us, even those feelings that came from a culture or maybe something past in that relationship or previous relationship or family, friends, off the news, off of Facebook. Who knows where some of those ideas come from? And right or wrong, they happen. And sometimes they're not fair and just for all. And we have to think about that. And coming to someone like you, myself, a mediator, it's good to go to a coach and talk it over because there's so much about it. Again, like I said, to go to a grocery store, sometimes it's difficult. There's so much stuff in our law. There's so much stuff, and it's not written in plain English. How many interpretations of the Bible are there?
Yes, that's a
Thousands,
great example,
probably.
right? Yeah,
How many
yeah,
interpretations are there of the law?
right.
Only in your judge's eye and your judge's mind. That's where it
And
comes from. So that's
yeah, and
some great.
I was gonna say too, like court, family court is not like TV family court. You may be in front of the judge for a total of 20 to 30 minutes for everything. Like your case may be in front of the judge for 20 to 30 minutes. So I was talking to a mediator who I know in California. I'm in Texas, but they were in California. And she said, on average, most people are going to spend less than 15 minutes in front of the judge because they've got so many cases on the docket. It's just, hear the case, basically split it down the middle. There we go, this way, we go that way. And so the judge doesn't know you. There's not going to be much of a time to make any kind of an impression. So that, you know, that idea that the judge is going to understand the background of the marriage and what caused the breakdown, that does not happen in the family court system.
And as you mentioned, Marty, I think you made a good point. There's so many cases out there. They don't have the time to truly read through all of those books of information that you have to turn in. The
Right,
attorney hopefully reads them, but the judge just doesn't have time.
right.
And it's just so hard, which I think brings up the next question that we talked just a little bit about. But how is divorce coaching different from working, say, with a therapist or even that lawyer or a financial planner? How's working with a divorce coach a little bit different?
That's a great question as well, Mark. You're just full of great questions today. I think
Thank you.
well, you always are, but I think
You're
one of
kind.
the best ways, the way I explain it, because it's a model that people understand, if you think of each one of the specific professionals in your divorce, so your attorney, your financial advisor, maybe your tax attorney, maybe your therapist, maybe a therapist working with your children, all of those people have very limited interaction. Like there's typically no exchange of information, particularly around the attorney. Now the attorney may get information from the other professionals, but they don't actually typically sit down and have a face-to-face or even a phone call. So I see the divorce coach as sort of the case manager. So when you as the client are responsible for transferring this information or connecting up your professionals, how does that all happen? The divorce coach should not assume the role of any one of those other professionals you just named. I mean, ethically, under ICF guidelines, divorce coaches cannot serve, no coach can serve a dual role in any kind of status. So, for instance, if I was somebody's divorce coach, I could not also mediate or be their mediator, or an attorney. If they are, now there are some attorneys who are divorce coaches, but they can't be your attorney and your divorce coach. So there's very much uh, everybody I think is in verticals or silos in your divorce, and think of the divorce coach as the person that's able to help you understand how to best communicate with each one of those professionals, how to get information back and forth, and how to ask the right questions so that you are knowledgeable. Because like I said, I really believe if people can talk this through and come up with their own settlement agreements, they're going to be so much farther ahead. So as your coach, my role is to help you maybe learn better communication skills so you can reduce that conflict. Maybe learn how to be more effective in sharing information so that you're not running up the costs with your higher paid professionals on your team, and really just being that central hub, or that person that you can go to and say, hey, I've got this question. Is this really an attorney question, or is this a therapist question, or is this a financial planner question? And then really being prepared when you go in those meetings so you get the information you need.
Sure, appreciate what you're saying, Marty, because again, when they bring the question to the divorce coach, you have an opportunity just to lay it out and discuss it on plain terms and make a little bit of definition and understanding before you go to the attorney, to the financial planner, to a therapist. And when you go in with a better understanding, you have a little bit stronger foundation, right?
Right.
When you're talking,
I really believe so, because I believe that most people, I know you have a great acronym for fear and anger and all of those kind of more negative things, but I really believe a lot of the anger and the distrust and the fear that's around divorce has to do with this sense of I'm not in control of this process. This legal system comes in and takes over my life. And, I hear, fathers saying, I'm worried I'm never going to be able to see my kids. I hear moms saying, I'm afraid I can't financially manage because I've stayed at home to look after the family and now I don't have an income. So there's real genuine fears for both, for anybody going through a divorce, but getting the knowledge and knowing that you have the information you need does wonders for reducing that fear and being able to, like you said, be open to hear what the other person is saying and suggesting, looking for common grounds, and then hopefully being able to resolve this without going through litigation. Because you're looking at, I hate to say this, and I don't mean to throw people off, but honestly, I've got clients that are two and $300,000 in legal fees and 3+ years in the divorce process. I don't want anybody to get stuck in that situation.
thank you so much because that's an excellent point. And as I work with them, I ask them, that China set is nice, but how much time do you want the attorneys fighting over that China set when for what it costs to have an attorney and attorney's time, go buy another one? I
Right.
mean, that's kind of makes it simple, but that's what we have to think about. There's times where we need to walk away. It's just,
Mhm.
it's not feasible and it's not intelligent to
Right.
take it into that when there's another path. And we talked about several, thank you, Marty, about several concepts here, but what are some other common mistakes that people make when they're going through a divorce?
I think the biggest one is to, and I'm not a financial advisor, so I don't give anybody financial information, but not to understand your money side before you start trying to settle your estate. So whatever that may be, whether it's the house or the retirement or the who's going to carry the health insurance or who's going to do this or who's going to do that, you need to know what the reality is of your finances before you even start talking that way. Because unfortunately, one thing that I see people excuse me, battle over a lot. And Mark, I'm sure you've seen this too, that the family home. Now, that's undoubtedly most people's biggest asset, but it can also be your biggest money pit, depending on the age of the home, depending on, how well the home's been maintained. And unfortunately, here's something that I see sometimes where people argue and fight and get granted the home after spending hundreds of $1,000s to get a home, and then find out they don't qualify for the mortgage. Like simple little things like that. And don't think that because your name is on the mortgage now, you get to keep that mortgage. You don't get to just typically assume it. You're going to have to reapply and requalify. So if you're only working part-time, or if you don't have that same income that you did when you were a couple with two incomes, all of those things factor in. And so I think not knowing your numbers first before you start negotiating is one of the biggest mistakes I see both men and women making.
I think that's an excellent point, and we don't think about those if we don't reach out to someone like yourself, myself, and find out from a coach, well, this is what I want. It was mine. My family did this. My family has this here. Great. But I thought you made a great example right there that, okay, but now you got to requalify as a standalone. And then how many times, and I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, does either parent, male, female, mother, father, man, woman, have maybe spent more time taking care of the children, hasn't spent as much time in their career, furthering their education, And then when it comes to that divorce and they're back out on their own,
Yeah.
it's another struggle, right?
It is. And um, just to throw this in there too, a lot of financer or lenders now are very strict about even qualifying spousal support as an income, because the other person can just stop paying it. Spousal support is not a guarantee. I mean, you would hope the other person would honor that court order. And yes, you have recourse to going back, but if the spousal support is just all of a sudden stops, or, heaven forbid, and I mean this seriously, spousal support stops if either one of you dies. So if the person paying spousal support, you know, for some unforeseen issue, has some tragic accident or some health issue, and they're not able to work, or they can't, or they pass away, or are killed, unfortunately that just stops. Now there are things you can roll in, like guaranteed life insurance policies and things to add that protection, but again, they're not things that your attorney may suggest. That's something maybe a financial planner might suggest. Or I say, I always suggest it to my clients. What have you thought about? How are you going to guarantee that? But lenders, that's where I started with this. Lenders typically don't look at it just for that reason. And typically you can't use, obviously you can't use child support, because that is for the care of the children. You can't also apply that to a mortgage payment. So there's a lot of things that look clear and look obvious, but they're not as simple when you actually get down to working with all these different groups.
I so appreciate what you're saying because, as you mentioned, the child support is for the child, the best interest of the child. That's where the money needs to be focused. But too many times, as I kind of joked about earlier, how we learn things and learn it through a culture, we learn it through our friends, Facebook, TV. And somebody might say, well, I just use my child support to pay my house payment. Well, theoretically, okay, you receive the money, however you receive it, you put it in a bank account and you write a check on that bank account, but that's still an accumulation of money. That's,
Right.
as you're saying, it's not, oh, that's my house payment. That, in theory, you need to be putting that money to where it belongs. So there's a lot of myths that are out there. So do you mind, what are some other common myths about divorce?
I think that one that I really like to work with my clients on is that you have to be an enemy if you're going through a divorce. And I don't believe that. I think that y- it takes some work, it takes some practice, some mindfulness. I teach all my clients breathing techniques, mindfulness and meditation practices, and we review communication skills. So I also do work with my clients on DISC and Myers-Briggs and emotional
Oh,
intelligence,
good.
so that they really feel that they can walk into a conversation that may have been problematic in the past and turn that around, so that parents are focusing on their kids and you're focusing on the best interests moving forward. I really believe if you have children, the goal should be to at least be able to become civil with each other. And the
Yes.
ultimate stretch goal would to be able to enjoy doing things maybe together, for with your kids. And I'm not saying you have to spend weekends or do everything together, but what I'm saying is, like, think about it. If your kids are 3 when you divorce, wouldn't you both like to be at their high school graduation or their elementary school graduation? Wouldn't you like to be, if they get if they do sports, wouldn't you like to be able to go to the same sporting events or dance class or piano recital, and sit there and be civil and enjoy being present with each other and honor and celebrate the achievements of your children? So I always encourage my clients to think about that long-term goal and start taking the smallest little step you feel comfortable taking to move towards that place of civility, kind of as the goal, but then a stretch goal of maybe even becoming better friends. And it's amazing because I know clients that couldn't sit in the same room with each other, and now they do holidays together. I had a client
Wow.
that they couldn't even be in the same building for mediation because the yelling and screaming
Mhm.
got to the point where the mediator just said, "I'm not doing it this way." And they went to virtual so he could just put them on mute if they got too carried away. And they sent me a card this Christmas that they had gone to Hawaii. He had brought his new partner, she had brought her new partner, and they'd stayed in separate places and everything, but they'd gone to Hawaii together and they did things as a big group with the kids. Now, I'm
Wow.
not saying everybody's going to get there, but wouldn't that be isn't that a great goal to look for? Yeah.
I like what you're saying. That is a great goal, and we should all go there. It's a drive to pull that back together, and it challenges us in many ways. And maybe I'll just kind of challenge you back with a question because, like you're saying, this is something that we need to strive for. We need to work for that ability, but yet we also need to realize that we're divorced in the
Yes.
same mode. That it's great that we can do things together, but if one member of the divorce and after the divorce, birthdays, kids' birthdays, it might be good to have the birthdays together, and especially if it's not at one of their houses. If they're
Oh,
having an event somewhere, I think like you were mentioning before, going to a baseball game, they must be civil. That there needs to be more work through counselors, coaches, guardian ad litem's, the attorneys for the child, to stop some of the negativity that happens. But the point I'm making there, though, is when there's an event at one of the mothers or the fathers, one of the spouses' homes, that's a bigger challenge. And I think the expectation of one of the parents to think that they must always be invited, because I'm still their parent, I think is taking it a little bit far. We want them to be friends. We want them to be social. But by the same token, there's breaking points. There's points we need to say, yes, but we're still divorced. So what goes on here is what I do with the children, even if they're not in another relationship, even if it's still
right.
just them and their friends. What do you think about that too? That they still have their own separate homes and separate lives, baseball fields, basketball fields, chess tournaments. I always joke about this because some people don't like sports, but tiddlywink
Exactly. Yeah.
tournament,
Yeah.
but whatever it's going to, when you're going somewhere to an event, absolutely. But then what do you also think about? You still need to draw some lines sometimes too when you're having some event at one of the parties' houses. No, the other person may not, it's not that they're not invited, but that's still a parental decision, right?
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And like I said, it's an aspirational goal and it's not possible for some people. It's not. I deal with people who are in really high conflict divorces, who are dealing with people who have um, diagnosed or undiagnosed personality disorders, that have problems with addictions, that have problems with um, uh, being honest, and maybe even problems with focusing on keeping the children safe and not providing, bringing strange people around kids and things like that. So if you're dealing with those kind of partners, this certainly is not, this is not realistic, and it shouldn't be something that you should feel pressured to do. So I thank you for giving me a chance to clarify that, because it's not okay for most people. And I would say, as a matter of fact, if you're dealing with a situation where there's any kind of concerns about the safety of the kids, or there's any kind of concerns about, and when I say safety, that, emotional safety as well, that if you're
Right.
concerned that there's going to be a blow up between the two parents, then yes, not inviting the other parent should not feel, your house is your domain. You should never feel obligated to have the other parent in there if you don't think that it's going to be a good, healthy interaction for you, for your kids, for your new partner, for your dogs. I don't care who's there. If it's going
Everyone
to be
involved, right?
unhealthy, then yes, I don't think ever you should have, you should feel pressured to do that. And unfortunately, there are situations where people do feel pressured, but stand up, really stand up for yourself. And that's something also a coach can help you with, is how are you going to draw those lines? And then how are you going to enforce those boundaries?
Very good. I like the way you said that. How are you going to draw the lines? Lines must be drawn. And then how can you politely, but with strength, enforce that those lines are there? And we do have that opportunity to be social and be friends at times, but also to have our own lives. Because if we were still that close, we wouldn't have got a divorce. I mean, it
Absolutely.
just comes
Yeah.
down to that bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it, as I touch on that, these meetings always go so long, go so quickly. There's so much I want to talk about, but we have about 15 minutes left, about 5 to 10 before we get into our closure. But I want to know about your books. You have two books. From I Do to I'm Done, and the other side of divorce. Can you touch on both of those just a little bit? Why'd you write those? What brought those about, and a little bit about the book, if you don't mind.
Sure, Mark. Well, they're two very different books. So, From I Do to I'm Done is a woman's guide to preparing for divorce. So, it goes over a lot of stuff that we've talked about. Who are the professionals you should hire? What are the roles of those different professionals? And sort of an evaluation of, do I really need these people? Because we didn't even touch on some of the other professionals, like a divorce mortgage lender, a realtor, there's all these other people that might be involved. So it goes through that. Then it talks about some basic communication strategies. It talks about how to think about your kids and how to talk to your children about the upcoming divorce. It even gives you some tips for preparing to have the conversation with your partner about the divorce, because I really think those early conversations set the tone for a lot of the next steps that happen in the divorce. So if you're in the middle of a disagreement and you just yell out, "That's it, I've had it, I want a divorce," that's going to be received much differently than if you sit down and have a conversation and say, "I'm really feeling like this relationship isn't working for me. I'm seeing a lot of areas where you're not feeling that this is working for you. I'd like to talk about getting a divorce." That's a whole different approach to this, right?
Mhm.
So it goes through that. I talk about preparation for negotiation and mediation, some negotiation mediation, some strategies, talk about a little bit about how to get that financial stuff together. So it's really a guide for leading up to and getting prepared for going in to see an attorney and starting the divorce process. So that's that one. The other side of divorce, breakups that lead to breakthroughs, is it is a collaborative book. So there are 19 women, myself and 18 other women. We each wrote a chapter. And what it is, and it again, it's more specifically for women, but I think it would be interesting maybe for men, because I don't think men and women go through divorce that much differently, at least on the emotional side. What it does is it talks about each woman tells her story of getting out of her divorce, and then how did she turn her life around to live in the place where she wants to live. For example, I went through my divorce, became a mediator, went on to become a divorce coach. There's different women who have, one woman who, just a fantastic story. She got out of an emotionally abusive divorce, was told she would never amount to anything, now does 5 languages and does translation
Wow.
for the Supreme Court. So there are these women that have made these amazing changes post divorce. So that book is really inspirational, I think. And each one of the chapters is written by a different woman, and they've got all their contact information in there. And a lot of them are coaches, but not all of them. One of the ladies left her marriage and became an international hotelier, and actually opened her own hotel
Wow.
in Africa. And so she's got an amazing story to tell. It's just really, it's more of an inspirational story, and you can just read chapter by chapter.
That is excellent. I haven't had a chance to read them yet. I'm going to have to go out there and look at those because I want to touch what on one of the things that you mentioned because you work mostly with women and I work mostly with men. I do work with both. The point you made about we all go through the divorce in a lot of the same ways and just don't realize it is so strong because I know for us guys, we are raised as that macho, and
Right.
hopefully it is changing. It's improving a little bit, but there's still a lot of it there. And we think, and I talk about this quite a bit about how we feel we have to be stronger and talk with our deeper voices, and we think that, but a lot of our ideas and concepts are the same. And when we think about it, we may think a little bit differently, but the points are still the same. And that's where I come in with my achieving unity by harnessing the power of things such as encouraging, inspiring, and including each other, because that is many times seen as a weaker side when you're encouraging someone else or you're inspiring someone else, you're including others. Sometimes the macho side of that may seem a little bit weaker, but as you're saying, when we can talk with each other, when we can communicate without making decisions theoretically behind the scenes and then just coming to the other person with a decision. I'm talking about several things here, but that communication ability, and I think that book second book you were talking about, it seems that touches a little bit on that. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that was interesting, I ran a small group where I invited both men and women going through divorce, because there's a lot of women's divorce support groups and there's a lot of men's divorce support groups. And so I had a few people that said, hey, I'd really like to we only met like 5 or 6 times, but it was an opportunity for just it was a small group. There was only 10 people in the room, and it was all done on Zoom, and nobody gave, everybody could maintain whatever level of confidentiality that they wanted, whether they changed their name or didn't appear on camera or whatever they chose to do. But it was really interesting when the men would say, and I'm being very stereotypical here, but there was men on there that said, I don't even know who to talk to, because all my
That's right.
buddies are saying, "Oh, way to go. Now you can get back out there and find, what is it they said? They were always saying, "Oh, you can trade in your 40-year-old for a 20-year-old." And that this is what their friends are telling them. And the men are saying, "I'm crushed inside. I didn't want this relationship to end, but I'm supposed to act like, oh, I think it's great that I can go out in the dating world." And then the women were saying, well, here I am, now I've gone through this divorce and I'm single parenting, and my spouse is out there partying, and they don't get that I'm staying at home with the kids. And both, it was interesting when they were able to hear the other gender talking, or the other partnership talking about this and going, oh, wow, okay, now I can see how that might be, how I may have misperceived what was going on. And I think we have those judgments of what each other is doing in the relationship. And I think getting out there and talking about it, there's a lot more in common than we think. Yeah.
I am so with you on that. And it goes back again to that culture and our learnings and what we hear from others. And I always toss out Facebook and media, the news, because that does come out a lot.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to find another good person out here in this world. It sounds good. It's not easy
Yeah.
to find that person that will talk. And sometimes it's best to go together to a coach. It's best to go together to understand, talk these things, but it's also good sometimes that just one person
Right.
goes alone and takes care of some of their issues that they may have had previously that's impacting the next relationship. So that whole thing about trading in your
Yeah.
40-year
Yeah.
old for 20, it
I was
sounds
thinking,
good. I know you were, and I've heard it before, but it's so true because there's just so much theory
yeah.
out there that does not come true. Because I think, and I hope I'm tying a little bit about what you're saying about even like men and women feel the same in divorces. We also feel the same thing about that new person and that new relationship and that ability to listen
Right.
to the other person. If you didn't listen last time, what makes with any of us, male, female, mother, father, man, woman, what makes us feel we're gonna think or feel any better the next time? And if you've had situations in the last relationship, what's going to keep you from not carrying those same feelings toward the next relationship?
Yes, that is so important. And I think, that's one thing I work on with my clients is this a pattern? Have you seen this type of a relationship situation occur? Because you're right. If not, you just keep bringing that baggage forward and your new partner has no idea what is going to be the trigger. And so I think, the statistics are pretty clear. First marriages, the percentage of divorces is actually going down. It's about 42-ish% right now. But second
Good.
marriages are still hanging out in the 60% range for divorce, and third marriages are up in the 70% range for divorcing. So the more times you marry, the more likely you are to divorce statistically. And I think that's because people don't spend enough time really decompressing from the problems of the last relationship and then building themselves back up personally, getting comfortable, feeling really good about who they are, and then being able to make a good selection into the next marriage. They just tend to hop from relationship to relationship, and you just end up repeating the same pattern over and over.
That is so true. And then when you have children, and sometimes it's not the teenagers, it's not the college students, but when you have children that are 40 and above and 50, and they're still dependent upon that parent for one reason or another, and they're not opening up themselves, and that's difficult in that
Yeah.
relationship because that creates friction because there's still that other dependency in the process, right?
Right, right. And the other thing, and I know it's almost the end of the time here, but I know
Yeah.
one thing that I'm noticing is people are just way more on edge. And I know I'm not going to say anything political, but people are just more on edge about the world in general right now. And that's not here in the United States, that's around the world because I work with clients in different countries as well. And I think that's adding to a lot of the angst and the stress and the distress that people are experiencing, and that puts more pressure on relationships as well.
It does. We have so much more to talk about, Marty, and I hope we can continue our conversations. And maybe June, July, maybe we can meet again and do this again. In closure, how can people get in contact with you? And maybe help me out with one last question. Who's your ideal client? And then how can they get in touch with you?
So I like to, if possible, start working with my clients as early as possible. So if people feel that if they're uncertain, if they don't know what they're doing, if they're feeling overwhelmed with even the concept of divorce, reach out to me. We can do a call and hopefully get some clarity for you. The best way is probably to go to my website. It's www.divorcecoach4women, and that's the number four. And even if you're a man, go there, or you can go to my other, because that also links to my other website. I don't want to give a bunch of websites here, but just click on the contact me button and you can book a quick little session. We'll hop on and have a quick chat.
And there's no charge for that, right? The
No,
first session,
no.
just a chat. So
Yeah,
why not?
yeah.
Why not
And
give Marty a call? Yeah, talk a little bit. Just get some ideas in that process. And I did show your screen with all of your links, and it's so easy to get in touch with you. So
yeah,
if they just go back to the beginning and get those links, look at her books again, take a chance to read those. And if you're going through a difficult time or a challenge in your relationship, open up. Don't make decisions on the background. Talk about everything up front. Don't make decisions with other people and then come back and say, well, I'm just being respectful and telling you about this. No, talk to them up front and first. Keep that communication always open and caring and being to the point where you can talk about it again.
yeah.
Feel free. Marty, any closing comments?
No, I just thank you, Mark, and thank you for all you do. I think your message is
Thank
so
you.
important, and the support you give people is just at at this time of life and in this environment, it's really needed. So thank you for all you do.
Marty, let's keep working together because I appreciate what you do. Thank you so much for those kind words. It's, again, as you mentioned, we have a lot of friends, a lot of people that we work with. We know them. We're all friends together. And I think as all of us working together as friends and help each other and do the same things we're talking about, let's keep that communication going. Let's work together and make tomorrow a better place, one reality, one step at a time. Marty, thank you again. Hope you enjoy it. Everyone, please come back next week. We're looking forward to seeing you again. I appreciate it. Talk to you next week. Thank you all. Marty, thanks again.
Thank you, Mark.
Cheers.